And most collectors don't even know that they exist, and is actually a samurai sword from the 1500s, from the late Koto period. That is not in any other book.
Hello everybody, this is War Story Video Vlog. I'm Alex and here is Martin Zalonis.
Yes, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. We are at Allentown Military Antique Show, and this show is almost finished, but I would like film interview with you, and can you share your knowledge about your Japanese stuff, because you have really nice display here. Unfortunately, some items you already sold that I really want to show you guys, but we have a lot of great material.
Yeah.
Could you show best items on your table, and could you share the information that you just explained me?
We discussed. Yes. This display shows World War II Japanese military swords, and the word military includes swords made during World War II and earlier swords made during samurai times. The officer had to supply his sword, so he either brought one from home, bought one at a sword shop, or had one made at the Japanese arsenal. And this shows various swords of those different categories. There's a basic description of the Japanese army sword used in combat, and the length is one of the important components, and that is they are 24.5 inches long to 26.5 inches long approximately. The Japanese government did not allow the making of wakizashis, swords under 24 inches, as a typical sword. However, we all know the Japanese officers were able to special order secretly or quietly something unusual, like an extra short sword for a pilot or a tank commander at those kind of applications where it's a restricted space. But they were not common at all. And most military collectors look for these unusual examples. We happen to have one today. Typically, the Japanese army sword is shown here, and this is the metal scabbard with a wood liner, so the sword does not touch the metal, like with most European swords. Typically, and this sword is measured to be 25.5 we had inches. Well, interestingly enough, I happened to show, and this sword originally had a metal scabbard, but it is not here. It is gone, and it was in poor condition, but it does have a military handle. This sword was very surprisingly made in the factory. It has a Showa stamp on the tang of the sword. Should I show it and pull the handle off?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So that here is the signature of the World War II maker, and here is the Showa stamp that says it was tempered in the arsenal's tempering process. That's exactly the signature and the stamping that's on this standard Japanese swords. This is a rare example, and most collectors don't even know that they exist or what the specification was at the factory in terms of making these things. The officers also were able to purchase special short knives, we would call them boot knives, as a secondary weapon for their body. And they have just plain wood mountings. And there are a lot of souvenirs made after the war that are traded as such, but there aren't very many genuine ones. I have one in the case. But we're looking, this is a World War II sword similar to this, but it had a leather cover. And this wood scabbard is typically what a samurai would have to protect the sword. This particular sword has grooves, a deep curve, and is actually a samurai sword from the 1500s, from the late Koto period. Great curve, and it's fully tempered as a samurai piece, one that was brought in by an officer to have mounted by the arsenal. This is a World War II Army sword made during World War II, again, I can show the stamp but the temper line is a standard, if you can get it, the temper line is a standard tempering process with the little shadow pieces coming down from the peaks. Pull it apart and we'll confirm that the sword was made in the factory. And here is the signature of the maker. Yes, there is the Showa stamp there, and there is the signature of the maker. Same as the other two we looked at, and the edges of the tang are very sharp and new-ish feeling. They aren't worn by years of use, 200 and 300 years. So a 200 and 300 year sword will have rounded edges. This is like sharp and brand new. One of the small ways you can tell roughly how new or old the sword is. This is a wakizashi that is samurai, made around the late 1600s. It has cosmoline because many of the swords brought back by the soldiers were dipped to protect them during the ocean trip. And it is a wakizashi, again, even shorter than this one. The tang is similar, but the tang edges are smoother, as you can feel. And the name is here again, but there is no tempering stamp that was not done in the arsenal. So we've confirmed of what our swords are, and condition, of course, is judged by the buyer. And these comparisons are important for collecting. This particular sword I have back here is very interesting because it's a samurai sword that is samurai mounted, and it's interesting for a number of reasons. But in more than typically, the sword has grooves. It's tempered. It's very nice. It's a katana. It's a samurai sword. It's got grooves, but it has a unique habaki, which I cannot remember the name of the school, but this habaki was made with this pattern only at that school, and the swords that this school made were for combat. Many swords are very beautiful and flamboyant and have tempering that is up and down the blade this way, and when they come narrow, it's weak point. This tempering stays the same full length, and when someone is a high-ranking officer, he takes his beautiful sword to meet with the high-ranking generals, but he takes a sword from this school into combat because it is most durable, strongest, and sharpest, and lasts the longest. So it happened to be that I have a samurai fighting sword in the group today. Obviously, a samurai mounted scabbard.
That's a great information. Thank you. And can you show some more items about pictures and that knife on your display?
These pictures were taken in Japan or one of the islands where soldiers were stationed. They show soldiers, this is a pilot, they show soldiers with different duty holding proudly their sword. There's an NCO sword with a leather knot showing, and most of the time the details are not available to recognize what sword they were holding. This is an Army officer's sword, similar to what we saw here with the correct handle. Here's another one in cold weather. Here is an officer or a sergeant, NCO, non-commissioned officer, and of course this is the personal dagger that the officer could purchase as a second weapon and carry on him. And notice the mounting is simple, solid, and durable, and it fits tight. This, in Japan, this would be called a tanto, which is the knife or sword that is 12 inches long or smaller.
And how did they carry it? Just in special?
In a pocket. Now, Americans use the slang phrase boot knife, but the Japanese officers actually did have long boots.
Yeah.
And if there was space and he could still walk or march or maneuver without hurting himself wearing that, that's where he would carry it. But usually, I think, around the belt area, someplace where he could get a hold of it quickly. It would be a enclosed second survival weapon. And
That's very interesting.
the pictures are very hard to come by, were very clear and with great detail. I am very pleased to find this collection.
And could you recommend us the best book for the beginner, please?
This is a book printed in England in the 1980s, and it is a small book and appears to be unimportant by its size, but it has information that is not in any other book. And the print is in black and white, unfortunately, but the printing of information, especially on the captions of the pictures, is details that most people would overlook or have never heard of. And a lot of my information, this is the first book I have, or had, I still have, of course, and they show pictures comparing various models, old and new, et cetera, et cetera. And it is a treasure trove of information and detailed photographs of the Japanese weapons and the other Japanese equipment. And of course, so I would recommend this book for anyone, and they're still available, quite inexpensive. And there are 4 swords on the front and the same pictures on the back. This is a standard army that should have a blue and brown tassel, but in this case, that's a general's tassel that designates a general's sword, but is on here to show how it would be attached for a general. Normally, this tassel would be attached here and would be blue and brown. And this is a D-guard, which is a sword manufactured during the Russo War, 1907, used in Second World War. An officer was a young officer in 1907, now he's an older officer in World War II, and this would be the sword he carried then and would carry again. This is a Navy sword of similar vintage, early. And this of course is also a military sword, probably an officer like a ship captain or some such thing that would not go into combat. This is able to be handled in combat, same with this one for two-hand operation, same here. This is more of a dress application. This one, which is a beginner's book, the color is red and red, but...
And this one for beginners, and this one?
For beginner military people, yes. But you need the combination of both of them. They both have their own special corners of information. This is more advanced, but you really need this reading, which is more advanced. It's too much information. To concentrate on the little book, to get all out of it you can, and this is basically about swords, so it gives you an idea how to talk about swords.
So thank you for these nuggets of information. Thank you for sharing your knowledge to the audience. And I bought a collection of Japanese swords, and I already sold it to customer, to collector, who asked me to buy it for him and to find it for him first. And can I show you some of these items? I already sold it, but I don't want just load this purchase to customer. I want to get more information and to share it with you guys.
You want to extract the important information that
because
you normally wouldn't see.
Yeah, it's priceless experience to get all these 230 blades. It's really a lot, and it would be great if I will come to you and show you some boxes of these items.
We can do that.
I'm really excited. Thank you for thank you for this opportunity, and thank you again for this video. Thank you guys for watching this video until the end. Press like button, subscribe, and comments if you have any questions for me, or if you guys have any questions for Martin, text it in your comment. So thank you again, and see you real soon. Нифига. Смотри, перецветать начинает в белый. Заяц вообще.
sein zum Längeren.